Hi, I'm Laura, the Library Lady. Today I will be discussing Thunder on the Plains by Gary Robinson. This is a Pathfinders paperback book, and it promotes Native American themes. So this is actually part of a series. I just recently finished this book and I really like it. It's for ages 12 to 15. It is a paperback, and it would be considered an advanced chapter book for youngsters as young as 10 years old. And it could be considered a high-low book for children up to 15. That's the 10th grade. High-low means low reading level and high interest, because sometimes we have children who are below their grade level with reading, and you don't want to give them something that's too juvenile for them, so you have to make it interesting for them. The same token, if your child is reading above grade level, then you have to be very aware of the context, because the vocabulary for young adult books sometimes can be a little too sexual, a little too violent, and a lot of our young adult books have vampires, zombies, and a lot of death themes. So as a parent, you always need to monitor what your kids are reading, even as they go into middle school and high school, because reading is so fundamental to all the other subjects: science, math, biology, and etc. And please remember, for standardized testing, that is so critical that your child has a strong vocabulary and a vast vocabulary, because that's mainly what those tests are, and they're very important tests, standardized tests, and their time. So Thunder on the Plains is about a young boy, and his father has died. His mother and father, I think, were both Native American. They lived on a reservation in Montana, and his mother has remarried within a year or so of her husband passing. And the protagonist is, let's see, what is his name? Danny. Danny Wynn. He's 13, and he's very angry. And his mother has remarried to a white man, and they both work in the bank. In fact, that's where his mother met this man, and his name is Bill. And so Danny gets in trouble in school. He just has a really hard time, and he can't stand his stepfather. And due to his behavior in school, his mother says, I'm going to send you to your uncle, and you're going to go live with him over the summer. And, Danny's very upset about this, because he and his family did not live on the reservation. He grew up in Los Angeles. So he hasn't been to Montana in a very long time. He really doesn't know his grandparents, his uncle, or his cousins, Rabbit and Crow. And he thinks this is a punishment, and he thinks that this white man that his mother has married is trying to get rid of him. And basically what really helps Danny is that Bill, his stepfather, says, every young person needs to know their history, needs to understand their ancestry. And he said, I'm from Scotland, and I think he said this later in the book, but I'm going to read you a passage of the book. And this is when Danny is at Indian camp. And what this does, it helps the young people between the ages of, I believe, 12 to 15, girls and boys, learn how to be a survivor. And then I think they're Cheyenne. To learn the Cheyenne ways, the Cheyenne stories, and to learn how to live off the land, which is very different from living in the city. So Danny has been with his cousins, Rabbit and Crow, and he's learned how to ride a horse, and I've been on a horse. And I will never get on a horse again in my life. And I have been to Montana on a horse, and I loved it. It was so beautiful. And a little boy about 12 or 13 was my guy. That's a different story. But you have to be very strong to be on a horse. And horses poo-poo and pee-pee a lot. So, and horses have their own personality. So I was on the horse for about 4 hours, probably 4 weeks after it took me to get over that pain of being on a horse. And I loved Montana, and it is called Big Sky. So in this passage I'm about to read to you, they're about to go on this Indian boot camp, and Danny is an outsider. He's not from the reservation, he's not from Montana, and this is what happens. And he has a kid who does live on a reservation, who challenges him. And this is this part. One thing one of the things I really don't like about these urban skins who come out here and try to pretend they're real Indians, he said while glaring at me. I'm not pretending to be anybody or anything, I told him. Yeah, well, why don't you just pack up your stuff and run back on home to your mama before you get hurt? I'm not afraid of you or anybody else, I said, just before I grabbed him and pushed him to the ground. We rolled around in the grass. I tried to get control of him. He tried to get control of me. Then a couple of other kids jumped in on top. Finally, Crow and Rabbit piled on to help me. So that was just one scene from, one passage from the book. It was on page 62. And so throughout this book, this young man has to discover who he is. And it's an excellent book. And one of the things about young adult books, parents tend to be dummies. Divorce is a very big topic. Death is a huge topic. Of course, there's the romance. So there's all kind of genres for young adults. And as parents, you need to know what your kids are reading, because young adults have books have really taken a turn for the more sensual, and the language can be. I've read a couple of books where the language can be very racy and a lot of profanity. So you as a parent need to read the book reviews. I write book reviews. I'm writing a book review about this book. This book is available at Amazon.com. It's available through Scholastic. It's available on Barnes & Noble. And I looked up about Gary Robinson. Couldn't really find a lot about him. But I'm always going to recommend that you go to the library to get your books. And one of the things that I think parents, and I see this because I've taught the gamut from the very young, pre-K, all the way to college age students, a lot of parents, when their children get to junior high and high school, they kind of back off. When I used to teach pre-K and kindergarten, all the parents were there. Then I taught 4th and 5th grade, not so many parents. Done a little bit of middle school. In high school, it's just like non-existent sometimes. You have to stay engaged with your child throughout their entire K through 12 educational career. A lot of times kids start dropping out at 6th grade. In America, we have a huge dropout rate. And this is one of the reasons I've decided to do this series, because reading is so fundamental. You can read with your child up until 6th grade, and if you don't read, if your child never sees you read, then how can you expect them to read? And you need to be actively engaged. What is my child reading? What is my child listening to? My mother never let us go to R-rated movies. She said, I don't live like that. I don't use drugs. I don't smoke marijuana. I don't do that. I don't have sex with random people. This is not how we live. These are not our values. And she would not let us see this. And to this day, I very rarely see an R-rated movie. Garbage in, garbage out. Maybe Hollywood thinks that stuff is cool. And for people who go see that kind of stuff, that's fine. But that's garbage. That's not my life. And I have a very full, exciting life without that. So you as a parent have to decide. Also, who are your kids hanging out with? Kids who are in their middle school years, all they care about is what their friends think. They don't really listen to you anymore. So if you don't have a foundation with your kids when they're young, then they're going to really split away from you. And even when they're older, you can have the reading time. It could be 15 minutes a day, a half hour, 3 times a week. Turn off the TV, put away the iPad, turn off the music, and spend some quality time with your kids. It's more valuable than anything you'll ever buy them, because you'll have that open dialogue. And in high school, the kids, some of us, we let our kids drive. And every year, there are so many kids that died during prom. They're drinking. I'm in high school. Kids are doing a lot of, kissing in the hallways, cursing. They're experimenting, they're exploring, and that's okay. And we're there as their teachers to ensure that they don't get hurt first and foremost, and to hopefully guide them and to teach them so they're ready academically for college, the military, marriage, a job, whatever they choose to do. But it's not our job as teachers to instill their values and their morals. We don't have that right. It's implied by the way we would behave, but it's really a parent's job to do that and talk about those things with their children. I, as a teacher, don't want to supersede you as a parent, and put those values. But if a kid asks me, because I had a young man who just graduated, and he's a great guy, and he's 18, so he's over, he graduated 18, and he came by my office, he gave me a big hug, and I've known him for 3 years now, and I said to him, if you can't if you can't take care of a baby, don't make a baby. And I talked to him about, because he's going into the, junior college, he wants to be a mechanic, he loves cars. And I talked to him about choosing his friends, not taking drugs, and he was 18, so he's a legal adult, he had graduated. So this was after graduation that he stopped by and talked to me. So I'm very respectful as a teacher, as an educator. I never want to supersede you as a parent. Never. So this is a great book. It's about a troubled young man. He goes on a journey, and I highly recommend it. It's a great book, easy read, really easy read. Took me, not long at all. Something you and your child can read together. Enjoy.